Thank you, Tim. And we had the Frangitz family. Some of us were here at 7 o'clock this morning doing community singing. And so that is written in the book of life. Thank you, Matthew, and turning up Claire as well. Fantastic. So good to have you guys with us. This is the fourth week in a series. We do series here. And this is the fourth week in a series that I'm doing. Because we've got these wonderful musicians, we decided to do a series on harmony. Harmony is the sound of things that go together well. People singing in harmony are in tune with each other. Harmony is a noun that describes agreement such as in feeling, sound, look, feel, or smell. And Jan Garrett, who was here last week, she defines harmony as a unified whole in which all the individual pieces are working together in a dynamic balance to create an interdependent, elegant, and synergistic composition. Each part retains its own integrity while blending with others for the good of the whole. But we're not just talking about music here, we're going beyond, looking at all types of harmony. In psychological terms, harmony is a positive state of inner peace, calmness, and balance, as well as the feeling of being in tune with the world. We've looked at the idea, this is previously on. So in the last previously ones, we looked at the idea that to create harmony in our lives, we have to create harmony within ourselves. And to do that, we have to identify that sort of still point within ourselves. Like with a gyroscope, when it goes around, there is a still point. And that still point really is the point within ourselves where our souls meet with the divine. We have to find that still point. And which is where spiritual practice comes in, whether it's a quiet time or daily reflection on the Bible or walking in the mountains or time on the cushion doing some form of meditation. You know, that sort of peace doesn't just come. You have to decide to cultivate it in your lives and have that. You have to get yourself in the game by putting up the sails so that the spiritual wind can catch it and you can steer a path that creates harmony. There has to be really intention behind it. Perceiving that universal harmony, Einstein's God, he described God as the God who reveals himself in the harmony of all that exists. That's his description of God. Because one thing we have to realize is that despite everything we see and witness on the news and everything every day, harmony is the state of the cosmos that continues to exist. Harmony exists within the cosmos on a macro level with the planets and everything going around, just to a micro level, all the atoms and organisms, all just moving around in harmony. Fundamentally, the world, and so I think it's quite a good thing to realize that the world is ordered. So our next step from that was one of perception. Just as atoms are in order and move in an orderly fashion, the whole universe being in a state of harmony, our role is to really join in with that order, to become part of that harmony that's at the center of all things, to become a part of the harmony of all that exists. And in order to do that, we have to be willing to perceive the harmony, which is at a deeper level. And if you just want to catch up on previous ones, the little on the chair in front of you, the little red tab will give you instructions as to how to catch up on previous episodes. And if you want to be on our mailing list, then the blue tab is the one that does that. So, if our intention is to make a contribution, I think it is, to make a contribution to the world by creating harmony in it, then I think we have to be in harmony. You can't create that intention without ourselves as individuals being in that harmony. And I think we have a head start on that because, if we first look at our bodies, we find there is harmony within our bodies. If there wasn't, we'd be dead. There is harmony in our breath. There is harmony in our heartbeat. They continue in a harmonious way, breathing in and breathing out, our heart beating as the blood flows around our body and allows that harmony of life to continue. And I think we can rest in that. Meditation is about resting in the essential harmony that's in our bodies. We can lean into that harmony and lean into our desire to bring harmony, to make a contribution. But I still think it has to be a conscious decision. We have to consciously decide that the ripple effect that what we want to have in the world is one of harmony. We have to have that be front and center, to prioritize the harmony of those around us above our own insistent wants and needs, above our desire for our life. We have to have a certain equanimity about our lives. But I don't know about you, but I find I don't have that. I'm always wanting to control things to happen. I always want, when things don't happen the way that I want to, I get annoyed. But you can cultivate that equanimity of realizing that, no one is going to control the world. It is out of control. And so, we might as well just get that now. And yeah, there's going to be upset. But you have to actually allow that upset to be there as well and realize that you just have to let it go. And that equanimity, if you can cultivate it, is really the starting point. It is that point of peace. And when we have that equanimity, when we think, okay, fine, it's going to happen. What am I going to do about it? Well, there's nothing I can do. It's going to happen. And I'm just going to move through it. Once we have that equanimity about what happens to us, then we can begin to move out into the world from that point of peace. And the first we encounter, if we decide to do that, to move out into the world from that point of peace, guess what the first thing we encounter is? The first thing we encounter, and we're all encountering it right now, is the present moment. We go out from ourselves. If we become conscious of ourselves, we then become conscious of the present moment. And the present moment is harmonious. It is in harmony. It's just there, being itself, just as we are being ourselves. Jesus had a phrase for the present moment. He said, I am in the Father, present moment. You are in me, yeah, that's the case. And I am in your experience. I am in you. That was his description. He described the present moment in that way. And he also said that the kingdom of heaven is within you, which is also, he's describing the present moment. So the present moment is harmonious. It is just there. And we have harmony with that present moment. And our role is to be with that harmony. Do come in and have a seat. No problem at all. You're not disturbing anything. There's some seats here if you do that. Our role is to be with that harmony in the present moment. Now, the moment I say that, our minds think, well, what good is that? What good is being in the present moment going to do anybody? You're not doing anything. Bullets are flying around, bombs are going off somewhere, people are starving, and you're just being in the present moment. Well, what difference is that going to make? How on earth is that going to change everything? And I'm scared as to where this is all leading. Conflict everywhere, no one agreeing, climate change, nuclear war around the corner, and you want me just to be in the present moment. Well, as Tom Hirsch would say, it's all about connection. It's all about connection, about joining up the dots. All of life is a wave. Music is a wave. The wave comes to us. What we say is a wave. It's about joining up the dots. We have to join up the dots one dot at a time. Within us, seeing there is a deeper harmony in the way the world continues to exist, and our connection with the world through the present moment. Those are the dots that we have to join up. And that's not just a feeling about the flow of harmony in life. It is about being a part of that flow, of consciously connecting into the harmony that is out there and being a part of that harmony. And when we do that, when we become part of the harmony of all that exists, in other words, when we become part of God, we bring that godness within us out into the world. That's how it works. That's spiritually how it works. When you connect, when you're totally, if we're here completely in the present moment, and we have an equanimity about what is going on, we can allow what is within us to flow out. And you can allow what is within you to flow out, and a connection is made. So a connection with all the disharmony that we want to create as being harmonious is in the present moment. I was talking to Jan Garrett. She's not here today, but she's watching online, I think. And she said she's got key rules of harmony. I'll talk to Tim about this afterwards. He said, the key rules of harmony: 1, tune your instrument. You can agree with me or not to this. 2, show up. 3, know the song. 4, listen. And 5, play with others. That is her rules of harmony. And I'll come back to them a bit later on. But we are going through those motions here. That's what we do. We tune our instrument, which is like, arming yourself into the space. You show up into the present moment. You know the song. You sense what is going on. And you listen to what other people are doing. And then you play with others. And when you do that, when you go through those actions, what we're playing is our part, metaphors I'm afraid again, in the great orchestra of life. That is what we're doing. We're playing our part. And if that sounds a bit grand, well, it's not. It is a fact of life, whether you like it or not. Each of us is connected to everything that is going on. And each of us, each individual one of us here, has got a part to play. And often, we don't play it because, as Supertramp would say, we think that no one else is listening. Those of you who know Supertramp's canon. We think no one's listening. We think it doesn't matter. So who cares what we do? We think no one's listening. The universe, however, the universe is always listening to us. And we have to listen to the universe in order to play our part. And by being fully present in the present moment, we make the connections that allow us to listen. By being present, we make the connections. We receive. Do you know how you make those connections? You listen. You see. You feel. You touch. You experience. You are open to what is the information that is flowing to you. These are the control panels that we're given to working out what's going around us and how to respond. Those are the control, and they all exist in the present moment. Too often, we look at a control panel as being that screen that is in front of us, and we use that to think we can affect things. We see it, and our minds tell us what's going on, through that screen, and we feel afraid. Your real control panel in creating your life is what is in front of you right now. All of this is the true control panel. You hear, you see, you feel, and that never goes away. The trouble is that as you grow older, you pay less attention to it. You just take it all for granted. You think, I'm seeing, I'm feeling. Yeah, you discount it as just being that which you have to be alive with. But you don't really pay much attention to it. You just sort of go through your life scanning it all and making a decision based on other things as to what to do. And so we get swung around our lives like a gyroscope because we're not paying attention, not to what's really going on. We get swung around by what's in the screens in front of us rather than being at the center and from that place seeing what's really going on. What's really happening. This is where it all begins, the impact we have on life. This is where it begins. If you think, how do I have an impact? This, being in the present moment, is where it begins. Most of the time, I think you'll agree, we are not in the present moment. We're in our heads, we're elsewhere, in our stomachs, We're not in the present moment. This is where it begins. I believe that Jesus was able to do what he did, all the miracles and stuff like that, because he was in the present moment. I think that's what that's about. People want to say, it's because... No, I think that the miracles were his response to what he saw was possible by reading a room. He was able to see deeply into what was going on, who was ready to be healed, what to do, how to do it, how to enable 5,000 people to feed themselves. It was through his ability to see into the present moment. There wasn't a trick, it was waiting to happen. And he was present enough to see it. The question is, are we really present enough to see what's right in front of us? As we talked last week, to make dead trees live, to have miracles happen. Do we have the courage to act? We're not talking about the how right now, we're talking about the possibility of a how. By connecting, the possibility of a how. That's all we're doing here. And that's quite a big step. The possibility of a how. Could you include that? The possibility of a how to make a difference. If you can include that possibility, then you can take the next step. But if you do not include that possibility, you never will take the step. The possibility of a how is by connecting with the harmony within us, by seeing the deep harmony around us, and by opening ourselves to that control panel that is in the present moment, we create the potential for engaging and creating harmony from within our own lives. And when you make the decision to become harmony, then we arrive at the starting gate of how. You have to arrive at the starting gate of how. But of course, there is also more than just that. There's more than just that. The whole purpose of spirituality, of yoga, of meditation, is to arrive at the added perspective that we're all deeply connected. That is the purpose of all that stuff. It's to arrive at the perspective that we are all deeply connected. Yoga means union. Books have been written about, really, to cut it down to it, it's to come to the moment that we're deeply connected, that we're all part of a unified whole as defined by the universe. That we're all part of the universe, expressed. We are individually parts of the universe, expressed as Nicholas and Stephen, Amy, Nicole. This is Donna expressing the universe. Each of us, we are all expressing an aspect of the universe. We're expression. We're expression of the deep yearning of the universe to know itself. We're an expression of the deep yearning of the universe to know itself. And as such, we have the ability to cooperate with the universe in the creation of a greater and more complex harmony. We work with the universe to create a more complex harmony. Our connection is now also made materially. That connection with everybody. First of all, there was writing, then there was radio, then there was television, then there was the internet, then there was social media. So that now, we're not just connected experientially, but we are all connected with devices that are in our hands, with all that's around us. The human race is fully connected globally. And this is a huge, vast, and obvious step towards an understanding of the interconnectedness of everything. And yes, it is full of shock and cuss words and problematic images. But they're like the cries of a baby when it's first being born. I remember when I think I was 11, and I was doing an English lesson in school, and we had to write something, and I put my hand up, and I said, look, can we use swear words in the essay? And when the teacher said, yeah, you can use swear words. I wrote this essay that was just full of swear words all over the place, because I could. And I think the stuff in the universe it's like a newborn baby screaming. People do it because they can. It's like just a newborn baby. They're people doing what they do because they can, of shouting at life to feel their aliveness with others. These are the birth pangs of the connection. As the Carpenters famously said, we've only just begun. It is the beginning. But the deep experiential connection, the arrival in many of us, and many of us here have experienced this, the arrival of unity of consciousness, of experiencing that the kingdom of heaven is within us, of realizing that, as Jesus told us, connects us as individual selves with something on a much grander scale. Yes, we are all just drops in the ocean, but we are also part of that mighty ocean. The same DNA that flows through the ocean flows through each of us in the drop. The same DNA that flows through the universe flows to each of us, so that that life force of the ocean of unity of consciousness, the ocean of unity of consciousness within us that many of us have experienced, is flowing through us and is connected with everything else that's around us. So, our connection to our surroundings, our connection with our circumstances, our connection with everything happens to us, and everyone we know, all of that has meaning because it is of a whole. It has meaning. We are all part of a greater story of life that is connected to everything else that happens. And that's why what we do matters. Our control panel to all of this is our connection through the present moment. And it is through this that we tune our instrument, that we show up, that we know the song, that we listen and we play with others. It is the next stage of our connection to harmony within and harmony without, is to use that understanding as we make the connection to make a difference to those around us. Which is why we study. Which is why in churches we read the Bible. Which is why we study Buddha and all that sort of business. We try to learn to live life more skillfully. Zen Master Dogen said, if you act in harmony with the minds and actions of our ancient predecessors, how can we fail to bring forth their virtue and practice? That's what we're trying to do. We're not on our own. We have the work of everyone who's gone before us. And in that way, we are standing, on the shoulders of giants. We are now the next generation. This is our generation to take things forward. Our aliveness is evidence of that. We are here. They're all dead now. We're here. And we can make a difference here. And all those books, the Bible, the Tao Te Ching, the Dhammapada, the Quran, the Upanishads, the Gita, all the other scriptures are there to guide us from the past, now that we're in the present, so that we can hand it on to the next generation. I'm on the last page, so I know some of you are thinking, when's he going to stop? I'm on the last page. But it is us here now in the present moment. So we have to see ourselves within that context and then decide whether or not this is important to us, whether or not we want to act. And to navigate, we have to see where we are right now. And where we are right now is connected to the harmony within, aware of the harmony without, using the control panel of the present moment to engage in what we know in our generation needs to be done. And we do that. When we do that, we make our contribution. I came across a great little story from Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The Power of Now. This is Eckhart. He says, a beggar had been sitting by the side of the road for over 30 years. One day, a stranger walked by. Spare some change, mumbled the beggar, holding up his old baseball cap. I have nothing to give you, said the stranger. Then he asks, what's that you're sitting on? Nothing, replied the beggar. Just an old box. I've been sitting on it for as long as I can remember. Ever looked inside? Asked the stranger. No, said the beggar. What's the point? There's nothing there. Have a look inside, insisted the stranger. The beggar managed to pry open the lid of the box, and with astonishment and disbelief and elation, he saw that the box was filled with gold. Tolle says, I am that stranger who has nothing to give you and who is telling you to look inside. Not inside any box as in the parable, but somewhere even closer, to look inside yourself. That is the position we're all in. We think we've got nothing to give. We think that we can't make a difference, but actually We're connected in a way that gives us the opportunity to connect and make that vital difference to all those around us. And how we do that, I'll talk about next week. Sophia and Jerry. So, always like to offer up an opportunity for anyone to disagree. Tom wants to disagree or say anything. Tom Hush over there. Just to get, always good to see, I always say we like to give out this information with a willingness to be wrong. So, Tom, anyway.
This is not a disagreement.
No, I didn't think you would know. It's fine.
To pick up on, and I mentioned this to you after last week.
Yes.
And to tie it to this week as well. You said something last week out of context, and unfortunately I don't remember the context within which you said it. You said God doesn't care. Do you remember the context? No.
No, but one can, in the scheme of things, God doesn't care. That's right.
God doesn't care. Actually, God cared about, and I don't believe, as you know, in God the way it's traditionally discussed. Yeah. But I do believe in a greater consciousness. But the point is, the creation process cares about creating itself in a harmonious way, within which we as individuals, that being doesn't care about per se. However, we have always a choice to care enough about ourselves and our relationship, our connection within that whole, to, in that moment of consciousness, to choose harmony, to choose meaning, to choose meaningful engagement, whether it be a person, an experience, in nature, whatever it is. That's the opportunity, is to convert the apparent non-caring chaos and disunity and create. Our job, in my opinion, is to create harmony, unity, meaning, whatever that means per person in the frequency of their own gifts. We can't do it the way other people do it. We can only do it the way we do it. We've been given our own frequencies of opportunity to create. And I have a metaphor in my own experience that epitomizes it in a physical experience of skiing, where you can it's entering consciously a pre-existing rhythm of perfection. You don't do it, you enter it. If you try to do it, you can't do it. You have to enter it. And you can experience that in other physical acts, in other emotional connections, in other intellectual engagements. That pre-existing rhythm of perfection pre-exists. It's our opportunity to be awake enough, conscious enough, to enter it, to connect with it within our curated gifts and opportunity to create meaning in the moment.
Perfect, Tom. Thank you. Nothing to add to that. That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Yes, Sarah.
I apologize, I was late this morning. You may have addressed this. A neighbor was particularly aggressive. So my question about service is, what happens when you serve and exploitation is so, in our culture and recently in our community, taking advantage of that is actually accoladed. Corporate takeover. People think if others take over, they're successful. So you might have already addressed that, but if you could in the future, I would appreciate that.
Well, that's really interesting. I always think it's really important to say that the one thing we have agency on is ourselves. The one thing we have agency on is ourselves. We always have the choice. And if you're able simply to take authority for one's own agency, then it doesn't really matter what else is going on. It's our agency and our relationship with what is going on around us. And that is the most important thing. And where we're coming from, our act of service is what we are offering, whatever else is going on. So that's how I would do that. Anybody else? Finally, Claire. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. That's great.
Sometimes when I feel overwhelmed by what's going on in the world, I bring it back to myself, and I think of if my body, just my body, were the organism that represents the universe and all beings, and my organs inside are individuals. Like my heart is me, and my lungs are somebody else. Let's say I put some poison into my body, and my stomach gets upset. My brain isn't going to be like, well, that sucks. I'm going to Canada.
Yeah.
I don't know. So maybe in response even to your question or comment, I think I try to remind myself anyhow that just to keep steady and strong in being who I am and my purpose, and hope that continues to have a ripple effect, a healthy response for the rest of the organism.
That's great, Claire. That's all we can do, I think. All we have is ourselves and our ability to do that. And you brought us straight back to that reading, which is that all of us come from the same spirit, and that's within us. Thank you for that.